Welcome to the Real and Raw podcast show. My name's James Forrester.
I'm Russell Quirt.
Welcome to the Real and Raw show. I won't hold back. Hello and welcome to another episode of Real and Raw. My name is James Forrester and have I got a fantastic lineup today. It's going to be great for people in the industry to watch this because I am going to be tough because these three think they're disrupting the market and they're probably going to tell me that they are, but let's see if they're not. And secretly they all hate each other behind the scenes. So let's see how friendly they're going to be as well. So welcome to Real and Raw. Alice, great to have you back on.
Thank you.
Obviously you're one of our first guests.
I was, yeah.
And you've come back for more.
I have.
You obviously like the first one.
You're
prepared this time. We've got Scott. Get it all right this time, looking around here. Told you I'd get it wrong, from eXp.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well. Obviously, Alice, you'll know from the first one, Nested, if you didn't watch it. And then we've got Iain, obviously, from Keller Williams.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay. You've all watched the previous shows. You sort of know what to expect.
Probably.
Here we go. So one of the questions I do have to start off with is obviously you guys have a self-employed model. So you're not a traditional agent. You don't have offices. You're not really employing staff, paying a lot of PAYE like a lot of other agents. If you looked around London, all the big ones, for example, will have hundreds of staffs on their books. But what's the difference between you? Because if I'm sat here now looking at you, between Keller Williams, Nested and eXp, there's not a lot of difference apart from the name. So who wants to go first?
I think I'll go first. I think that the main difference is the support that any agent wants, right? So any agent that's coming into being self-employed, some may need more support, some may need less, some may need more marketing. And I think there's different parts of each business that has different parts of what they can have. So you say we don't have an office. I know myself, we've got an office. It's a small support group for any agent that's coming in. So if they want coaching, consultation, one-to-ones, they want someone going out lead generating with them, it's different spaces for different agents and how they work and how they feel.
Okay, so you're saying that's what Keller Williams niche is, that you've got an office, people can come in, get all that support. So what's the difference between Nested? Is it Nested or Nest now?
Nested. Yeah, it's always been nested.
It was Nesto originally, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. I think there is another company.
I have to sack the people who give me these notes.
There is another self-employed business, I think, that might be called the Nest or something. But anyway, I think, firstly, I said this on the show last time, and I don't think it maybe came across as well as I wanted it to. I think it's awesome that the self-employed sector, for people wanting to go into this sector, and it's not for everyone, have choices. And I don't think that it's a bad thing that there's three of us here sat today and other self-employed models that are not here today. And people have a choice because what one model might fit one person is different to what maybe will suit another. I think we're all fairly similar on the splits, as far as I know. But I guess Nested's niche is that, and this is kind of what I say to a lot of people when I'm talking to them about Nested, is I'm not here wanting to be the biggest. I'm not here saying I want 500 agents, 600 agents. Like, that's not what I'm working towards. I'm working towards having 150 really good, like, quality agents in each territory area. To be running really successful businesses and being able to support them with that. I think that our model is slightly different to eXp and Keller Williams off that kind of basis, but equally, I just think it's great that people have choice. That's not being having a politician's answer, but I personally think it's great that people have got so much choice.
Very politician's answer.
It is, isn't it?
eXp, what's the difference?
If we're talking about it from the agent's point of view, when they're looking around at models rather than necessarily the client, the vendor, I think for me, the major difference, I personally don't like eXp being called a self-employed model. We do call ourselves a self-employed model because that's very quick and easy for people to recognise and understand when they're scrolling through LinkedIn or wherever. I'd like to look at us as a business ownership model. So with eXp, we do enable people to have stock in the company. We've got a revenue share model. People can grow a team so they can grow beyond just themselves. And I think the difference between a self-employed model and business ownership is self-employed is you make money when you go to work. Set up a business is you can make money when you're not there. And for me, that's the key difference between eXp and the other models.
Okay, good. I think we all agree, obviously, the people who've got to benefit from all of this is the clients at the end of the day, from the houses that you're selling, or if you're doing lettings, it's all about the end user, that they should always get the best service. But obviously there is a bit of a battle within the industry itself of who's better. You know, I'll have eXp 1 minute shouting that they're better, Nested obviously saying they're better, then you two battle out on LinkedIn of who's better, then Keller Williams joining, but then you shut down a marketing centre, quickly after that. And everyone starts to get a bit confused. And a lot of traditional agents, and I have the traditional estate agency, will just turn around and say, is this just another phase? Because Purple Bricks came into the market, obviously self-employed. They were the kings of the self-employed model, at all. I know Mr. Russell Quirk had a bit of a go at it, but obviously it didn't go that well. Obviously, with, what was it called again, Russell, since you're in the room?
What was that?
What you set up originally?
The rocket ship that was emu.
Yes, that's it. That's it. And all together. And it just shows that, people who are running these very successful, they've shut down. Purple Bricks, it's just been sold for £1. So it hasn't really done anything special. Massively in debt. One of your shareholders is the original Purple Bricks shareholder, I believe, Axel Springer. So is this just a phase that we're going through? Because if you ask any traditional agent, they all said Purple Bricks will eventually go. And they've all been proven to be right. And since Strike have done the deal, they've sort of disappeared a little bit, especially in the north. You're not seeing it anymore. So is it just a phase? Do I expect to see you in 3-4 years' time?
No, I mean, we don't have like a time machine. We can't go and have a look at that. And things do change. Things happen over time. I personally think when we're talking about self-employment, and that's what we're here today, or business ownership, that's what it's got.
It's pretty good, that. You've got to give them the... That is a good marketing twist. I do like it.
I definitely think that that's here to stay. Like, whether us three are still here or all of the other, you've got IAD, the Agency UK, quite a few other models as well. Like, who knows? But I definitely think self-employment is here, and it's going to get bigger. Like, when you have a look and when you talk to these really well-established agents, they love doing what they're doing. And when they're looking at what's my next step, they don't necessarily want to be regional directors. They don't want to be like, there at a desk looking at KPIs every day. They just want to do the job of being an estate agent. But there's that cap in high street estate agency and in the corporate world where if you want to earn more, the only way to do that is by climbing that corporate ladder.
But is there now? Because now you've got some great independents on the high street as well, who are actually offering a little bit of a different model, where they offer it if somebody wants to go further and they want to do the job, they're being given these opportunities. So yes, you've got your corporate model, but you have also got some real fantastic independent agencies that are actually allowing their staff to flourish, and they're guaranteed a paycheck every month.
I think the independents and some of the corporates now are starting to react to the self-employed movement 3 or 4 years in, but they are starting to react. I think largely what they're offering is a halfway house. I think what they're doing is...
Is that not the right model then?
No, I don't think so. I don't want to name any particular company, people know who I'm talking about, but I don't think giving someone a halfway house between being employed or self-employed is smart, because what will happen is they'll either fail and they'll go back to being employed, or they'll succeed and then they're going to be knocking the door asking for more. So whereas I think with a model like eXp and some others, with there being no glass ceiling, I think that's a much smarter move for the long term.
Okay. Where the Keller Williams stand on this?
I think it's almost like for me, this is my personal opinion, the industry needs to get better as a whole. And I think this phase, call it a phase, or the future now, is helping to be able to make the industry better. So the last census I read of how trusted estate agents were underneath politicians. Yeah. And for me...
I think we've probably overtaken them at the moment with what's going on.
We're way below them now. It's just how we allowed that to happen. We need to give some sort of power or some sort of say back to the agents. And for agents to be able to come in and make their own decisions and want to raise the standards, I think that's the key for any of the models sitting here today and any others that are out there, is where that then goes. I've had corporate companies reach out to me. It's like, how do you make this work? It's like, I'm not going to have a conversation with you if we're doing it already. Because if we can make it work and we can make the industry better, the agents get more. If the agents get more, who are actually looking after the customers, they get more of it as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because 100%, and from a traditional, I think in the property industry, we all agree that this industry has to improve a lot better. It has gone down. And I think the likes of Property Mark, obviously who are seen as the regulators pretty much now of the industry, that you can volunteer to obviously go in. And I remember at the Property Mark conference a few months ago, I thought it was a great example that Claire used when she went, look, you could have come out of jail for burglary and you could set up an agency tomorrow and you're going to give them the keys for your house, your alarm code, and actually tell them when you're away to come in this property. And I think at the end of it, I think we have to be regulated. A lot of your systems, especially Keller Williams and eXp, are based from America, where obviously it is a licensed industry altogether. Yep. And I agree with you. It's a dirty word in our industry that an estate agent makes money, or they should make money from that. And they're not doing a lot of it at the moment, especially under the current climate. But is that not part of the issue at the moment, that in America, the minimum commission pretty much is around 6%, which will then be split 50-50 between brokers because they look after their own clients. And I can only go off personal experience, and it's no attack on anyone, but I know eXp agents in the north where I'm based who will be selling for 0.5%, on a £300,000 house. There's no money to be made on it, altogether. And is that not part of the issue? That until fees go up, that actually the model will be still suppressed, because there's only about 1,000 agents self-employed, and that's been going on for 3 or 4 years now. So there's not really that market share being hit.
Yeah, I think if you look at locality as well, so it's locations obviously affect what agents.
So is it just a London thing? It can work because of prices, or
not at all? Not at all. We've got agents charging 2.5%. So again, it's standards within any business, right? So if it was all about lower fees, strike would be the number one, right? Mm-hmm. So why hasn't that happened throughout the whole of the industry? It's about the standards and the self-confidence that agents have, and maybe the training that they need to be able to get to where they need to get to. And I think that's the more you can do for the fee you're actually being paid for, rather than it being somebody going out, falling in love with them, a negotiator coming in, then being passed to somebody else, then somebody else. The more you can do for that money, the more it becomes a cost-effective thing for somebody to give you more when selling their home.
So does it need to be a minimum fee now?
We have a minimum fee that we would expect our agents that are standards in our office, purely because it's beneficial for them, beneficial for their clients, and beneficial for everybody else.
Okay, I'll come back to that one. Okay. What about yourself?
The example of some eXp charging that fee is...
Don't forget, it's not just eXp. There's independents and corporates who will just drop their trousers at the moment for a fee.
I can tell you now that I know all the pipelines at eXp. The heat map wouldn't work very well. There's no geographical... The South don't earn more than the North don't earn more than the South. Out of our top 10, I'd say 4 or 5 would be north of Birmingham. I can name now Kirsty Hodgson in our top 10, Ali Harper's in our top 10, Claire Bilton's in our top 10. This is Scunthorpe, Newcastle, Northumberland. And these people are earning 200 grand a year plus in a estate agency, charging full fees, charging what they're worth, and then being worth
for
what
our
they
viewers,
charge.
there's some very expensive houses in Northumberland as well, just to get it there. So, Knight Frank have an office in Newcastle purely for their Northumberland model, obviously to deal with a lot of the
same would apply.
Properties.
I think Kirsty Hodgson would put herself at the bread and butter end of the market. Mm-hmm. That's the expression I use. I would say Claire Bilton very much so would. Equally, Ali Harper, he might be more mid-market, but he's a full fee.
But is that not good then, where they're making it a success and it is all about the person and the brand actually doesn't matter then? Because if they opened up under
I don't think it does with us.
If their own name, they could open up their own agency today and go forward, would they not still be getting that success? Or has the brand helped them in some way?
What, the eXp brand?
Yeah.
I think I view eXp as a supplier of my services running an estate agency business. When I'm sat in someone's living room, eXp comes up 1 in every 50 visits. Mm-hmm. Most clients don't ask me anything about eXp. It's all about me. If you knocked on the door of someone who's on the market with me right now and said, who's selling your house? Imagine they'll say Scott. Don't think they'll say eXp. I think that's really powerful.
Is that not worrying for eXp? I know you might not be able to speak for all of them, but will some agents not be sitting there thinking, why should I give them the commission? If I actually went and set up myself now, I could be keeping all that commission and maybe negotiate better commercial deals.
The most amount of commission they're going to give us in a year is £24,000.
If they hit the cap.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So exactly, good luck getting the services that we're giving our agents for £24,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Rightmove, Zoopla, an absolutely exceptional CRM, all the other things without making this a pitch about eXp. You would not get the services that we offer, money penny answering your calls at 11 o'clock at night for £24,000 a year. And you're quite right to say that you only pay that if you turn over 80.
Yeah.
If you only turn over 40, you only pay 12.
There's some advantages and some disadvantages.
What are the disadvantages?
You're still paying another company your money when you're doing all the hard work. Because if I looked at it as what is eXp, it's not an attack, but what are they actually providing that particular agent? It's not a bespoke in-house system from what I'm aware of and from what my researchers have done. They've just said it's normal CRMs. There's nothing really done that you couldn't go and get yourself.
Well, no, I would say, if you go and pay it yourself, you're going to be running a business like you do, where you're paying the same amount, but you're doing it whether you're successful or not year in, year out.
Depends how good negotiating you are to get it all down.
No, but regardless, I would argue that an eXp agent who turns over 250,000 and gets to keep north of 200 grand of that, from a percentage point of view,
it's good.
How many high street branches are keeping 60, 70% of their turnover?
So what happens?
People like to say, you give away this, you give away that. If they're running their business and they manage to retain every single penny that they're earning, please pick up the phone and tell me how you're doing that, because I'd love to hear it.
I think everyone would love to know about that because the tax man will take
And it doesn't exist. That model doesn't exist. You are paying away somewhere. And with us, if you like, it's kind of a pay-as-you-go. If you're successful, you do. And while you're building up your business, you don't.
But I'll bring back that question. Do you think the fee needs to change? Because like you said, you've mentioned 4, but how many agents have eXp currently got at the moment?
I believe it's north of 450.
Okay.
That's from me counting
So
through.
out of 450 agents, you've got 4 top hitters doing over 200 grand. Would you not say it's not working for the rest of them then? Because I've got one, for example, where, don't worry, we've done it on all of you. So don't worry, it's not just an attack on it. So where one of them has only got 3 properties. And then you look at it and you think, is that damaging the brand? Because one, they were poor quality, they're struggling to sell, they've been on a long time. And are they making enough money to actually survive, or will they fall away and someone's got to pick it up?
I could ask who that was would really help. I won't ask that for the sake of this recording, but it would depend on many factors. How long have they been going? What are they trying to set out when they set up their business? Did they just want to look after a handful of clients to give an exceptional service? Maybe they're only looking after 3 people, but those 3 people would say, oh my God, they call me every 3 or 4 days for an update. They're always here on time. They've never misled me. So actually, there's every chance that person's offering a great service and therefore enhancing the reputation of eXp. So without knowing, I talk to...
But without them selling, they're earning no money because they're self-employed.
No, and that's right. And look, the way I look at eXp, and I would compare it to a gym, right? When you join a gym, if you said to the owner of that gym, look, I'm going to pay my 50 quid a month, how fit can I get here? He's going to laugh at you. Depends how long you spend on the treadmill. It depends what your nutrition's like. It depends what your motivation is. And it's exactly the same at eXp. It's exactly the same at eXp. You join eXp, but no one's phoning you up saying, what have you done today? What's your activity like?
Does it not help? Like, then, Alice, I know you're very on the team and focused for this. Does that not help if someone's on your case as well, for your KPIs as well, and actually say, look, what have you done today? Because at the end of the day, that's the brand. Effectively, you're in charge because you're the MD of Nested.
Well, when it comes to self-employment, obviously, as Purple Bricks have learned, IR35, need to make sure that you don't kind of thrust KPIs onto people. I think that's really important. And this example you've given... Is that not one of the issues with the model then? No, I don't. And like this person that's got 3, maybe they just want to do 3. Maybe they're doing it part-time or 1 day a week. And that's where I think the likes of eXp and Keller Williams model is really good for those people that want to pick up the odd listing every now and then. It might be that particular person is actually really happy with that. I think your point is a really good one though, coming back to the original question around like standards in our industry and fees. And unfortunately, that is where I think if we're not careful as a sector of our industry, we can be seen to be promoting people on and who are charging lower fees and therefore making our industry not as credible as it should be. And that's the thing that I look at. And that's where we don't have KPIs for our partners, but I have KPIs as a business. And because we're territory based, I give an area to an agent. I want to make sure that us as a business are earning the absolute maximum that we can from that area. And that means that I have an internal KPI to make sure that if I'm putting an agent in, let's say, a territory in Battersea, that agent is charging the right fees for that area.
What happens if they don't hit that KPI?
If they're not, whatever, I make a business decision. Is this like, I can still make business decisions just because someone's not, hitting, just because like they're, I guess, in a location where they're charging like lower fees and I'm not actually in that area generating as much revenue as I could be. That's a business decision for me to make. And I think that is where...
You'll be cut, basically.
Potentially. I mean, I haven't had to do it yet because I'm making sure that I'm bringing the right people onto the business.
Good answer there.
But that is something that I think is important, and we should all, as people in the industry, be really, really wary of that. We shouldn't be promoting people to go out and putting a 0.5% fee on their services because 1, we know they're worth more than that, and 2, our industry is worth more than that.
And do you find that then, say, your success is because you haven't really ventured out of the London home counties areas?
Well, yeah, we've only just started venturing out. So we've launched Scotland now, and we've got 3 or 4 agents already on board in a very short space of time, which is great. So we're starting to do that, but we're doing it with the right people leading those teams. Okay. But yeah, we've been predominantly London-based up until recently.
So where's Keller up to at the moment? Because a lot of traditional agents who are going to watch this are going to go, well, your chief exec's disappearing.
Yep.
Or stepping back, moving, being pushed out, whatever you would like to call it, even though he owns the UK franchise model on it. But you've shut down a few marketing centres recently as well. So is that showing it's not working for people?
If you look at a model...
And bearing in mind, I know someone at Keller Williams, and I had this conversation with them only the other week.
Yeah.
And he literally gave me the full-on company pitch to it. And I went, but you're still shutting them down.
Yeah.
I said, and that's the level of success. You know, if someone's out there earning money, these places would not close.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of high profile names, which I don't mind mentioning them, to be honest, but just to give you an idea, and I know you might not be able to know all of them, but we can go on. So we've got Nicky Stevenson, Simon Ledbetter, who, funny enough, I have a podcast with later after you, Russell and Anthony Quirk, Gavin Swan, Wayne Albert, Jason Cannon, Will Clark, and Matt Thompson. These are big names in the industry. All the traditional agents will pretty much know who these guys are altogether. So if it's so good, the self-employed model in the UK, and I see pros and cons to it, but why is it not working? Why are they all jumping ships?
If you look at anything that's new within an industry or something you're trying to do to change something throughout an industry as well, you learn a lot, right? There's a lot of mistakes that happen. Jason, Wayne, I worked very closely with the majority of people on that list. And through over time, lessons have been learned, mistakes have been made. I've been there with Keller nearly 5 years now, and I've seen people come and go. And I've seen offices work, I've seen offices not work. I've seen offices not work as well as any other have done before. And that's purely down to, for me, hunger, what was actually offered in the first place, and then what's actually learned and what can come forward from there. So I think what we have now as a proposition with Mark Redding's now coming in, you've got some fantastic people across the board. But for me, it's the agents that need more of what people give, especially within our business, and every business is out there. Because if you can give more to the agents, you offer more, you allow more, the more business they do. Guess what? The more business they do, the more money they earn, the more money we earn. That then gives the survival tactic of what people can actually do with us. So our office sound, you've got other offices that haven't worked, but when it's something new in an industry, people are going to fail and people are going to succeed.
Obviously for Alice, I would know the question. I would know the answer to this one, but I'm sure Mark's not coming in as a self-employed person. I'm sure he's getting a big salary for coming in to run this.
Me personally, I have no idea. So for me...
Do you think that could be part of the history as well? Because if you're asking good agents, for example, to move away from a corporate company, because typically that's where most of your, I might be wrong here, your self-employed agents are going to come from. So you're going to try and pinch the best from the high street and go, look, you can come and work for us. You're going to earn more money. But you're asking them to probably give up a half-decent salary as well. So, you know, in London, they'll be on a lot bigger than they are going to be in the north as well. If they're good, they've probably got a lot of flexibility already with their employer because of the way things have changed over the past years as well. So all of a sudden take a lot of risk from that. But the people who are given the decisions at the top are probably getting big salaries themselves and are passing it down. So is it not a little bit hypocritical on that from someone on a huge salary sort of saying, come and work for us, but we won't pay you anything. As long as you succeed, then you've hopefully got the chance to make more money.
Yeah, see where we're going with the question. So for me, I'd probably turn away more agents than I
The reason I ask that, because obviously, look, a lot of the people who are going to be watching this are going to be estate agents.
Definitely.
They're going to be, they're either thinking of moving across, or you're going to have your traditional owners go in. These are the questions we want.
I think that's the thing. When I represent eXp, I often say we. I'm not part of the leadership team. I'm not paid any salary by eXp. I'm just an agent that assessed all the models and decided eXp was the best thing for them. It's changed my life in terms of my earnings. I earn 3, if not potentially 4 times what I used to earn on the high street, which has enabled, well, you can only imagine, but I live a much, much better lifestyle than I used to do. And now I'm promoting that to other agents. And I'm only encouraging them to do something that I did and it worked for me. I'm not paid not one single pound per year by eXp to promote the model as a salary. So yeah, when I see other people, because you see it all the time, they'll work at a company, they'll promote it, then they'll leave and they'll be at the next model 2 years later saying, oh, actually, wrong again. This is the place to be. And I have people follow them.
Let's ask Alice, because you could be gone in a couple of years.
Oh yeah, but I understand what you're saying.
The juicy stuff's coming out now. Here we go.
I understand what you're saying, but you do get paid you earn money off the back of people coming onto the eXp business.
A very generous
right?
amount, but success only. So every penny I earn is because somebody's done a deal.
Yeah, I know, but it could be argued, and I'm not saying that this is the case.
It's all right, I know where this is going.
It could be argued that it's all just about filling the top of the funnel, because you know that a certain percentage are going to fall away. It's all about how many more people can we get on. And I think that is where we've just got to be a little bit careful. Coming back to your question, no, we absolutely shouldn't be persuading people to leave really, really good salary jobs off it's got to be a decision that they make themselves. And it's not about selling the glamour, the lifestyle, the money. Yes, agents earn really good money off the back of this, but it's bloody hard work to do it. Like, if you think you can just come in, open up a laptop and you're earning what you were earning before and getting the flexible work-life balance, then you are wrong and you're mistaken. I think we, as leaders of these businesses, we have a responsibility to be really clear to people with that. And yes, it's rewarding. And yes, it gives you, if you don't want to be jumping up the corporate ladder, this is a really, really great model if you're a good agent to be earning really good money on. And I guess that's when it comes down to that revenue share aspect of sometimes where things can get a little bit hazy.
Where's it hazy? What part of the revenue share model is hazy? Because I think it's arguably the most transparent way of earning money in our industry.
I just think that because you are how many agents do you have underneath?
Over 100.
So, but I guess there's a certain percentage of that 100 over the next year are naturally going to leave, right? So your earnings and what you're earning as your individual business are going to start to deplete unless you keep filling the top of the funnel. And that's only where I say it gets hazy.
No, I get it. I just think, why would I put anything other than quality into the top of that funnel? So let's just imagine for some reason I decided to spend time and effort attracting somebody into the business, then time and effort onboarding them, and I'm going to work with them for 3 to 6 months trying to get them through to their first deal. If I then know they're going to do 1 or 2 deals and then decide it's not for them and go. So let's just paint that picture. They do 1 or 2 deals. The amount I would earn off of that could be 300 quid for 6 months work. Why would I do that if I thought they were likely to fail? Whereas actually the truth is, when people talk to us about eXp and they're trying to learn the model, it's actually in my interest to make damn sure they're coming in with their eyes wide open, because if not, I'm going to invest lots and lots of time with them and I'm not going to make any money. Now, I can say hands down, the money to me is now secondary. And the reason the money is secondary, frankly, because I've got a nice amount coming in every month. Doesn't mean I don't have to think about it.
But I could put this to all three of you here, obviously on behalf of traditional agents, because they could have the same argument and go, naturally, they only want to recruit the best, because typically they're going to have a recruitment agent, they're going to have fees that they're going to pay the recruitment agent, they're going to bring them in. They're typically going to be on a probation for 6 months, and they need them to work, within that, and they're paying their salary. So a lot of traditional agents are going to sit here and go, well, is it not just the way that you don't have the big HMRC tax bill every month coming in? And actually, until you do have that and you're paying it, you're not running a successful business yet.
As an individual agent?
Well,
my tax bill was much, much larger last year than it was in any of my years as an employed agent.
But if you dig that down to individual agents, because obviously it's their responsibility to pay their tax because they're self-employed, so it depends if they are, if they're not, throughout that. But obviously as an employer, if someone's employing staff, they will have their PAYE. Yep. They've got to pay every single month, without month. Some might obviously go a few months before they pay it and they'll play the system, etc. But they'll go, that's when you're running the business. And if you've just got a lot of self-employed people, effectively, that's all you're saving. And this is where we're talking about for the people watching this, who are thinking maybe going into it, is I'm still waiting to see what the difference is between traditional and going self-employed.
One's growing, one's shrinking. That's quite a big difference.
Well, you say that, but
yeah,
the self-employed model still doesn't even have over 1% of the market yet, really.
No, but one's growing and one's shrinking, and one's growing pretty rapidly. And I think that what we're seeing
which is growing?
Self-employed.
Is it though?
Yeah. You're saying it's not?
I think you'll find people will go into it because it seems a bit attractive.
No, but forget individual cases.
If I turn around as a traditional agent and said, you know what, we're going to go out now and we're going to recruit everybody, and we're not going to pay you any salaries, but we'll put all the brand, everything behind you, all the systems in place, and actually you pay us 250, 300 quid a month, because that gets away from a lot of the self-employed rules and regulations, because effectively they're paying you a membership fee or whatever you would like to call it, an administration fee on this. I'm still struggling to see where the difference is kicking in, because each one of you have got different models. So Keller Williams, very much the marketing center, the ones who read all the Bibles. That's a quote from Alice recently. You've got eXp, which are going for pure numbers, without a shadow of a doubt. It's all about number of agents throughout the UK.
I don't think that's a...
But it's growing, but it doesn't mean that's coming back into results.
But then you haven't done your research.
Well, you tell me who you're beating at the moment.
I think we are now in the top 10 largest estate agents based on instructions listed in the last 7 days.
And what about
fall of the UK?
What about fall-throughs?
I don't know the stats on fall-throughs.
Because for the consumers who are watching this, doesn't matter about boards. Doesn't matter about having your face on it. And it doesn't, and that's the same across anyone. That doesn't matter. That's my company,
you said very interesting numbers, and I would say that's true, but the numbers were interesting. Revenue.
Numbers to me, it's not, there's two different arguments to this as well. One, you've got the business argument of why people would join you as a self-employed model. The difference is, obviously, we come back to one of the very first things we talked about is improving for the end user. That's what it all comes down to. But if they don't get their money from their sale because there's been a lot of fall-throughs, then they're the ones who have just lost out in a bit of a battle between a local agent, a traditional, who are going to lock heads against each other in a local market. And I think all four of us can sit here and go, we've either had it personally ourselves, or we do see it where they do start to badmouth each other. And that's not good for the industry because the end user, the client who's put their trust in them to go and sell it, has lost their sale.
Yeah, but if we're talking about eXp only being interested in numbers, I could say, yes, that's true. We're interested in how many houses we sell, what our revenue is as a business, where we sit in terms of size of organisation in the UK. And
sell or complete, because they're two different numbers.
I would say complete then, if you like. I'm pretty confident if we're in the top 10 as far as properties on the market. Bearing in mind this as well.
So you're saying you're doing a better job than these two?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the market's saying that because we're growing faster.
Alice is smiling.
No, because well, in what metric are we not? Just if we're going to make it specifically about eXp. And by the way, I actually agree. I think competition's really healthy. I think the reason we sharpen our blade every day and we wake up every day trying to make eXp better is because we know other people are trying to take our market share of self-employed agents.
So you're saying you're doing bigger.
I'm not trying to take his market share.
No. I know we don't compete in the same space, but I would say, in what metric are we not currently?
You have with and obviously that's different with Keller, but with Nested, we only launched our self-employed 75% model in February. Right, so we're at your stage like several years ago. So for me, it's not about competing against all of these like numbers. We're top, whatever. Like for me, it's about building. And we decided to grow the business as a self-employed model because of that end user stage. Like we believed as a business, we've got fantastic technology that we spent a lot of money building for the end user. But actually self-employment, if you look at the way that our industry works and a person goes and has a evaluation done by the top senior person in the branch and then gets handed over to sometimes a viewing assistant do viewings at weekend, like that feels quite backwards to me. And when we looked at our model and we thought, right, we're London based, we're doing really well, got fantastic, excellent on Trustpilot, etc. How do we grow this business to the scale that we want to? Self-employment made really a lot of sense. So we didn't do it for this HMRC bill or taking people off the payroll, not at all. We did it because actually it suited what we wanted to build in our industry. And that's where it's like, I'm focused on building the best self-employed platform for the best agents. And that's what I'm focused on. I'm not distracted by any of these 500, 600. We want to be in the top. We've done X amount of thousands of listings. Great. I think it's fantastic. And I believe when Scott says this is a growing sector, it really is. We are attracting a lot of very good quality from the high street to self-employment. But I'm just focused on building, really good quality.
Where do you stand on it? Because obviously because there has been a couple of market closures.
Yep.
And no, that could be the staff running it who have done it and they've just not been good enough. Or, their eyes have been blinkered with another offer somewhere else and they've jumped ship.
Yep.
Because there is a lot of high turnover of staff or self-employed agents.
Definitely. And I think if you look at, I can't speak for the whole of Keller because again, it's not for our office. It's again, the highest quality, but the conversation keeps going back to what's the business doing as a whole? What's the business doing as a whole? But the two main things we're looking at, right, is the consumer and the agent. That's the two main things. And they're the two main things that are broken currently in the UK market. Agents aren't paid enough and they're locked into their offices. And the customer isn't getting the high quality service that they deserve. The only way to be able to give that to them is give more to the agent to be able to give that then to the consumer. So you're going to get people that are not quite right. And we went back to look, how do we're attracting people in? You're never going to attract people in. It's going through a business conversation of how much money do you need? How much time is it going to take? How much blood, sweat and tears have you got? The amount of agents I speak to that say, I've lost the love. I've lost the love of this industry. And I know they've been great because I've known them for years. But
does that happen only when the market gets tough as well and they can't roll their sleeves up and get their elbows out?
No, I'll tell you something interesting. 4 years. And was an eye opener.
Because it has been easy for a estate agent across the board, so it doesn't matter who you work for, self-employed and agency. For the last sort of 8 or 10 years, it's been relatively easy. to sell houses because it's been an upward trajectory all the way through. It's only been now within the last year and a bit that the market's got a bit more difficult.
What a great space for the
this is where you see people start to shine because they've got to get their elbows out. They've got to realise they've got to work for their money. And is this not where we will see people who used to be good, who have lost it, but purely because they've been in an easy market, would you not say?
No, I think the opposite.
Yeah, I think the opposite
is true. I think that this is a time now where a lot of people who get in touch. First of all, the really interesting thing, and I learned this a few years ago, when I ask agents what they're looking for and why they'd move away from, and I don't traditional hybrid online, I don't even know what that even means anymore, to be quite honest with you. But most people are genuinely interested in just offering a great service to the vendor. Mm-hmm. When I ask them what they're looking for, that's what they say first. And I've probably had this conversation with 300 to 400 people over the last 2 years. And they do. And I've always found that really, really reassuring, actually. And I'll tell you now, our top 10 agents, eXp, that's what they said when I first spoke to them. The money is secondary. The money is still essential. And actually, I only brought up numbers because I was asked a question. You
can bring up numbers, don't you?
You said eXp only care about the numbers. And I think we have to know what numbers you mean by that. Because certainly if we're just talking about agent count, not particularly interesting. I think you have to have the success of selling houses. You only have the success of selling houses if you empower your agents to go and do a great job.
Yes. But if I take that one who's only got 3, for example, that's 1 out of 450. I'm sure there'll be other examples. And it all depends who's running that area, altogether. But if someone's put their blood, sweat and tears in it for, say, for 6 months, they're not seeing the results, they're going to drop away. But somebody in that area, somebody again or next door will be able to sweep that business up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, because there's multiple agents in one area.
There can be. I don't think many people recognise the eXp brand just yet. I think you have the juggernaut of the support behind you, but I don't think we all talk about it like we can. I think it's a little bit like, you might know Lewis Hamilton won the last Grand Prix, but it's only a real petrol head that knows what tyres he was on, right? And I think that's the same thing in a estate agency. We're all talking about models and Keller Williams this and eXp that. Should we go and stand out the front and ask next 100 people who Keller Williams, eXp or Nested are?
You ask agents who they are.
Agents know. We'll go down to Pret.
I think you went out and asked, they'd probably name 2 corporates and one that's just been bought for £1.
Yeah.
Is the honest
I don't think
answer.
they're naming any of us. Yeah. I'll be very, very surprised if out of 100 people, 5 people knew who eXp were.
So one thing I would agree with, and especially from eXp and Keller, is obviously there's an American system behind it because that's obviously where it originally comes from. And Americans obviously are very good at nurturing their clients from day one. That's one of the best things that probably comes out of the, what we translate into a self-employed market because they're good at nurturing clients. But does it not come down to what you're saying? If you look at them 2 links, and I think this is an industry problem altogether, is it does come down to the fee. So I understand from a self-employed point. And again, look, I have a traditional agency and people are going to say watching this are going to be going, yeah, but you don't do this and you don't do that and do this. But if we look at it as a whole, and this is what it'll come down to where the industry needs to wake up as a whole and go, if you want the best agents to be working for you, providing the best service, be able to do the best marketing, so you're constantly up to date, and because that's the number one complaint, I don't get updates, I don't know what's going on, etc., etc. You just have to pay more. It's not about going, well, look, if you don't come on board and we don't give you a salary, we can give you 70%, 63% of everything, and etc., etc. You're just going to have to pay more to sell your house. Yeah. And there needs to be a minimum fee across the board in England and Wales. Scotland will leave because it's a different rules, and I don't know it that well. So.
But that can only ever happen if we are licensed as an industry, I think, because.
But is it not the right way to go?
Definitely, I 100% agree. Because again, I just call them let them forget. It's just like you move a tenant in, you never speak to them again, and it's just wrong how we just dump people in a house.
Because it's interesting you say it. Can I just pick you up on that for the let them forget? So it's interesting now because if you speak to the good letting agents now. Fee-wise, because of the battle that's going on and because it's getting tough out there, and agents I'm not saying use, but in general are now reducing fees dramatically. And I could sit here and name corporates, independent traditional agents who are literally dropping their fees because the lister gets their £100 to go and put it on the market. They'll say what they need to just to get it done. But is this not part of the whole big issue that we're looking at now? Is that if you keep doing it, there's going to be a lot of casualties.
The industry, no, I don't think it's all. The industry,
and on letting, sorry, to come to my point, is letting are earning more now than sales. By the time they've done their setup fees, they've gotten their management fees and they're all put into it. If they look over that 12 months, they're earning in some places on par now with the sales, but they're actually getting their money straight in advance.
More often than not, they deserve to earn more than what they go through trying to get a house let and getting something.
Landlords and tenants are not easy sometimes.
Yeah. So it's the compliance that goes with it as well. And again, it always comes back to support. So if you look at any self-employed model that I've looked at most of them as well, what do you get on the back end? So what does lettings look like? What does deal progression look like? What is everything that you can get? Because you can go out and do what you're good at, building relationships, helping people move home and giving an incredible service.
Okay.
And if you can do that with the support function of it, some agents don't want to be self-employed. They never will be.
Yeah.
But the ones that do, they need a choice.
I want to ask a controversial one then. Obviously, the UK market's not that big. We'll sit here and go, it is. But we're only an island.
Yep.
There's only so many properties. We're not building enough. So obviously we are going to get limited stock. You reckon some of you guys are going to start merging together?
I think, certainly from a growth point of view for eXp, our next step is teams now, to enable teams to be grown from within eXp. So I could now set up a team and grow that business. Or very, very soon we'll be able to have businesses join eXp and essentially be
powered by
us.
eXp.
Yeah.
That's interesting because Keller, I've had a conversation and they've said it's the same. So why not just join forces? Because then Alice will be gone. That's it. You've just joined on and taken it all.
But that's incentive enough, isn't it?
But is that not? Is that not a natural?
I don't really understand the question. Merge in what sense?
Because the UK is very different. If you take the American headquarters out of it,
Yeah.
the UK is run very separately because obviously it's not licensed. They're not broker.
It's
boring, though, wouldn't it?
Plus
Isn't the battle we've just sat in and said competition?
It might not be huge, but is it not? If you're going to want to win that huge market share,
if we start merging, the service is going to do that.
But will it?
The reason the service levels in estate agencies is gradually starting to
you
improve.
just get rid of the rubbish self-employed agents and then keep bringing them on, but you've got more support there. So it's more revenue, obviously, for the company then to really start their marketing drive.
No, I think it's again, it all comes down to
it's a secret you do hate each other.
I think most of us enjoy that part of it, and I think that's the truth. And you've seen us all chatting before the podcast. We're all friendly. Actually, it's pretty amicable now. Almost unfortunately, I was quite looking forward to a little bit of a battle. But the reality is, I look at it. It's a little bit like boxing, right? Which is kind of what I grew up doing. You go into a boxing gym and you might be on the bags. You're giving someone else advice. You're all friendly. Then when you spar or you have a fight, you have to tear some strips off each other. And then afterwards, when you get out of the ring, you say, actually, you could have done this a bit better. You could have. And I've grown up absolutely loving that fight. It's gloves on, it's gloves off. And personally, I think we've just sat here saying the reason standards are going to improve is because competition is going to become a little bit fiercer in the self-employed space in particular. Well, then in that case, that's why we're not going to merge.
It's going to get tough. And there's a question for all of you now as well. Do you not think it needs to change how agents get paid? Because of all the work they do. So if you take conveyancing now, and I'm sure that's a different, you'll all have your own opinions on conveyancing at the moment, that it just seems to be getting longer and longer and longer.
Well, I think they need to charge more, first of all. I think that's going to really help them.
Some do, but then the clients don't want to pay it. That's the unfortunate
No, but the race to the bottom in conveyancing has been similar to that in a estate agency. And everybody says, we want cheaper. But also I don't want a solicitor to have
But self-employed or
cases
traditional, it'll make no differences because it'll just depend on the business and the different models. It'll be very similar. But is it acceptable anymore for an estate agent selling the most valuable asset you probably own, having to wait 6, 7, 8 months now to see any money?
That's mad. When you go over to the States and you sit there and you talk them through how it works in the UK, their chins get lower and lower and lower. So how long does it take to get a deal through? 5 months from offer.
Yeah.
What do you get paid? 1% or 1.25%. Okay, but that's locked in the second they make the offer. No. And they're just more and more going, what? How do you work like that? So yeah, I think there needs to be change from that point of view.
You reckon this is where Purple Bricks sort of did make sense in the market by going, look, if you're going to sign a contract, you've got to pay some money up front? Or do you think it has to be put into contracts now where you're pointing out to clients to go, you must initial list bit that you are going to pay us money if you decide to go on with somebody else at any stage, not a multiple sale, where it's a bit backwards, where they're going, look, if you come on with us, we put all our money into marketing. We're giving you updates, every Thursday, Friday, whatever day is chosen.
Some agents do that. I mean, some of our agents do it. They charge
for marketing.
To protect themselves, which I totally agree. I think it's 100%.
And it should be all the time. Is you don't need to go as far as America. You go to Scotland, and how quick you can get south through there.
It's actually every other country, it turns out.
Exactly.
You talk to anyone from any other country, and it's
look, if you look at Spain, for example, it's a minimum 5% on a resale.
Yeah, but you look at, you were talking about conveyancing, you look at conveyancing process, the majority of the stuff that the agent actually does, rather than it being left to somebody else. Yeah. That's why there are higher fees there. That's why everything, the incremental pieces, always then lies down.
So what would you say the minimum fee should be in England and Wales?
2%.
But some are achieving that now.
Yeah, of course they are. But again, minimum for everybody.
What would you say?
I'm not going to answer that question because I think that's that like.
But you don't think there should be transparency in the system? Because like in America, I know bits of American market. If you go into certain states, they'll have a minimum fee on that, and that's the lowest they'll go to. And obviously, if it's a good agent, they might charge a bit more because they've got that presence, etc., which is rightly so, because at the end of the day, they've done the right job.
We could argue
should there not be minimum? So if someone
we can argue what that number is. I think we all agree that there should be a minimum fee.
But if I rang a nested agent now and I said, tell me how much it's going to cost me to sell my home, are they going to give me a straightforward answer? Or is it like the traditional agents when you ring and none of them give you an answer?
I'll have to come and have a look.
I just want to know.
Actually, it's interesting when you start to look at when you're growing your business and you want that repeat business. And this is again where, back to self-employed, if you're only reselling a handful of listings, every listing matters. So you want someone to refer you. This is where I think fee transparency is coming in. So just to talk from my own experience, I charge 1.25%. I think I could charge more. But I think the impact of that be I might get 1.5 off you. Yeah. But then you go and suddenly realise
in the pub, having drinks, telling everyone, there you go, I've just signed a contract.
I've been ripped off. Or I recommended my auntie to him, and then she managed to negotiate him down to 1% or whatever it might be. So I've stuck with the fee and I've decided not to actually push the boundaries on that.
And that's refreshing to see, because there's a classic example about where we go, we have to improve the industry. But when we get down to fees, we all get very clammy about it. It's like, we don't want to answer, we don't want to tell people what we're charging. But we should. There should be a minimum fee across the board where that's the minimum. What if you decide to charge more?
Everyone's view, though, everyone's view on what that minimum fee should be. Like you say, 2%. I think that's great, but I think that's too high. I think that
So I think it's too low.
I know, because last time in a podcast you said you don't take anything on for less than 2.5. Like everyone has a different opinion. I think we can all agree, though, there needs to be the regulation and there needs to be some sort of rules.
Will agents not work better? So, for example, if every listing was just saying, obviously, America prices are very different to UK. But if the minimum was 3%, then all of a sudden, a lot of the issues disappear very quickly, because you deal with your client. You might have a buyer who wants to buy the property. The agents all of a sudden start speaking a lot more.
You have to have the skills to be worth that fee.
You're going to get the 1.5 each. And all of a sudden, but the house might go quicker.
The problem is
sales done. Everyone's incentivized.
That's why it comes down to regulation. It's like, it's all very well as saying, the minimum fee in our country needs to be 2%.
Doesn't need regulation, no.
But actually then you're saying that there could be someone that comes fresh out of university or jail, as you see in your example, and gets to charge.
It was a good example.
It is a great example. Gets to just charge 2% just because.
But is this not what it comes back to?
Rather than regulation, qualification. So you have to have some qualifications to be able to do it. I think it's needed.
The qualifications, but I mean the regulation. So if you went 3%, if every agent in England and Wales said, if Property Mark, if everyone was joining them, because I think it's the right way to go. A lot of people will disagree and go, they don't offer enough to what they do, but at least someone's trying to regulate.
It's regulation though, isn't there? And then there's actually someone having the skills. And the problem is, I know that when I pay, or let's say somebody pays me $4,500 as a fee to sell their house, what I want is to have charged them a good fee, but equally I want them to have gone, that was worth every penny.
100%.
And I think by bringing in right now, if we were to say, right, across the board it's 2%, I think we'd have a lot of vendors with bad taste in their mouths, because actually they've overpaid, because what's happened is they've given it to someone, they've plonked it on Rightmove, they've sold it, and they've not heard from them again for 3 months. So the most important thing is that we upskill everyone in the industry.
So is this part of the issue? So if you were getting paid more, then you've got more money to train as well. And you can put people on courses, because there's very little out there to obviously train. And if you bring a trainer in, you're going to pay a lot of money for them to come in. So half the self-employed agents listen, same as employed. Are they listening? Are they taking it all in, etc.? But if obviously the revenue's not always being generated, then you can't always have the better. And I think it's interesting, because if you look at letting agents who do, and I agree with you, what letting agents have to put up with, is a lot, but they can push their fees up. So, landlords have never had it better enough. I know Russell's always quoted this, and I think a lot of us agree. I have a letting agency, and it's the same. Obviously, all of a sudden they want to push their rents up because their mortgage is going to. Well, at the end of their AST, they can do it. They can push it up. If you've got a fixed mortgage, you're stuck. That's it. So, they've never had it better, because they're able to increase their rent on it. Now you've got the agents all of a sudden coming in saying, look, if you want better staff, and you want these updates, and you want to be looked after, and all the midterm inspections and everything that another agent's probably not doing, because they're only charging you 6%, but we're now charging you 10, 12. And obviously that's out of London. In London, you're going to be more 20, 22%. Obviously, they've got the resources to do it. And that's what I'm trying to get out of sales. It doesn't matter if it's self-employed or traditional. If the industry just said, right, the minimum should be 3%, and you got the majority of estate agents all to agree, it doesn't have to go through a regulation, that all of a sudden you can deal with each other. Will that not increase how you're looking after clients? Because all of a sudden you're incentivized to act for the buyer now as well.
But that doesn't mean regulation, right? That's what Scott was saying.
So if you've got property in Kent, And then they're going, they're moving to Birmingham, for example. You're looking up, going, there's the agent up there, like that property. I'm going to start dealing with it.
It comes down to
all of a sudden, you're getting the sale as well down in Kent for them to sell, but dealing with an agent to buy. So you're getting a double whammy effectively on the commission. So naturally, you're going to do everything for it because you're earning more. The client's going to be happier because it's one person they're speaking to and dealing with it. Does this not solve 80, 90% of the issues in the industry that we're talking about at the moment?
For me, regulation, no. Qualification, yes. Because again, if you look at the majority of agents, so I'm not even going to say it that way. You look at some agents, they don't want to help themselves. So what am I going out and learning? What am I going to go and research? What qualifications am I going to go on? Why do we need to? Why would you want to say this is in a high street or a corporate firm? Why bring in somebody else to train when you would want to do it? You'd have to have it to actually operate as an agent, and that's when the lower quality comes in. People are people just there for a job? I don't know, but if we raise the standards,
we do get paid. Literally, I think out of the whole developed world, we are now literally one of the lowest paid in the industries.
Yeah, for doing all that work, you say through lettings, through sales, through property management, whatever it is, for everything that we do. So again, if you have the right qualifications with agents, the standard grows, the consumer gets better, our industry grows because we're more respected as a profession, then everything just washes through from there. So it's not just about, look, this is what it is, set a minimum standard, everyone has to do it. And selling something up in Birmingham, down the south, all three of us, probably within our businesses, eventually will have someone in a different town that you can utilize that through anyway. And you know the person who they're going to be working with and how the quality of service they're going to get anyway. So I think
if it works.
When it works.
Because that's what I mean about the competition. And I like your point about competition is good. And I think the difference is at the moment, we'll all go for a beer together, like after this and have a laugh and a joke and everything. But when it comes down to the business, obviously we all run very differently. But the more collaboration between agents can only be a good thing for the end user. And I get by saying, if Keller Williams had offices everywhere, they could just deal with that. But the same could be said with Connells. And clients don't use Connells all the time to go and buy somewhere and sell somewhere, just as an example, or another big corporate agency out there. And I'm just saying, well, if the fees were increased across the board, then all of a sudden it's great because people go, you know what? I've met that person actually at a Property Mark conference, like what they do. They've got some properties. My clients are looking at it. All of a sudden, you become that buying agent, but you're getting rewarded for it. And actually, it's impartial because you've got two companies then all of a sudden looking to get the deal through, which can only be better for the clients. And that'll speed up conveyancing without a shadow of a doubt because the pressure all of a sudden is coming from so many different parties. And the end user is getting what they want. At the end of the day, like in America, they put it on the market. They want their money as quick as possible because they're using it for something else.
It's very effective in the US.
And why are we not copying something that works very, very well?
Because the agent traditionally is paid so little on a percentage of that fee.
So whose fault is that, though? And how does it change?
That it just comes down to the environment the agent's in, right? So if an agent goes from 5% commission and they're getting 50 quid to go and help someone else buy something in Birmingham, they're in London, they're not actively going to process that, not going to push it. Or if you're passing it to another office and you're not being paid back on it, you're not being reimbursed with it, why would you? That's why business is lost and that's why things get washed through, because if the agent is then paid more or they get more of that fee, you're then passing something to Birmingham or down the south or an east or Scotland, wherever it is, or across the world. You're then more incentivized to be able to do that. But at the moment, you're getting 50 quid to
I think it's also
pass the lead to
reputation
somebody else.
as well. I think, if I was to refer any business, I'd want to make sure that if I'm giving that referral to
It's the
someone,
right person.
it's the right person and that they're, I guess, at the same standard as I would expect myself to run at, and I think,
It sounds like you work for an American networking company. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest networking companies in the world. Say that.
Who's that?
B&I.
B&I.
That's it.
Well, I do. If I'm referring business, I want to make sure I'm referring to someone that is good and is going to give a really good service. And I think that's the point that you're trying to make as well. Is like actually qualifications and regulation. I think they go hand in hand. Like both of them are equally important, but we've got to do something because those 0.5% fees coming out of jail and being able to run your own estate agency business.
Somebody else was caught, not mine. Can't take the credit for that one.
Yeah.
As well. All right, I want to leave you with two questions because I'm seeing in the corner of my eye I'm getting rushed. Biggest reason to become a self-employed agent and what has to change in the industry? I'll go with you first.
Biggest reason, don't do it. Only do it once you've researched it. Find out where you're safe.
That's to join as a self-employed agent.
Yeah. The second question was? What's the change?
What do you think needs to change in the industry? The most important rule.
Less tit for tat between different agents, high street, hybrid, as Scott said, we don't even know what they mean anymore. Higher qualifications and higher fees.
Alice.
Biggest reason, if you don't want to be led by KPIs and you don't want to be a manager or a regional director, but you want to earn more money, it's a really good way of doing that. And then, sorry, the second question again was...
what do you think needs to change in the industry quick, fast?
I think estate agents need to be paid more. Otherwise, you know, the corporates are going to lose really good quality agents. They need to pay them more.
I think the biggest reason should be to get your love for the job back and to make more money doing it.
Shouldn't do any job. I agree with you on that. If your passion's gone, then you should step to one side.
And yeah, absolutely. And you know, something I hear a lot is people say they've got their mojo back. And, you know, because some people don't know if they've fallen out of love with agency.
Yeah.
Or
they've just got stuck in a rut.
Yeah. And often they've just got stuck in a rut. So it's a really good way to reignite.
Yeah. And what would you change? Or what do you think has to change?
I think I'd go down the fees route. I think we need to be stronger on our fees, but equally, I think we need to earn our fees when we charge those higher amounts. It's got to be fair.
You've got to show, if you're going to charge, you've got to show it.
It's got to be worth it. Charge what you're worth and then be worth what you charge.
Perfect. Alice, Scott, Iain, thank you for coming in. Told you it wouldn't be easy as well. I think there should be a part 2 for this one, to be honest.
Fun. I think we definitely
I think it'll be good. Thank you very much for watching. I'm James Forrester, the Real and Raw podcast show. This will be coming out very soon, and we hope you stay tuned. Get your comments in below. Let us know what you enjoyed, what you think about the fees, because this is one thing that we're all agreeing on. Fees need to go up. Let us know what you think needs to be done in the industry to change it for the better. Thank you.